Yesterday we spoke about the sounds and how it's important to name something, either a picture or a real object, and then discuss what the sounds look like. So today we're going to first talk about the ear, because you need to identify a sound before you can talk about the symbols of sound, which is the basis of reading. So let's look at the structure of the ear. Sound gets to the brain in two ways, through air conduction and bone conduction. So air conduction means there's sound waves. Sound waves hit the pinna, or the outside of the ear. It moves through the ear canal all the way to the eardrum. It then stimulates those three little bones that we all know from biology and school. And then it hits the semicircular canals. And then finally, it gets to that snail, which is the hearing apparatus called the cochlea. So there's quite a distance for sound to travel, and all of that, till it gets to the semicircular canals, the vestibular system. That means it's all conduction through air. And the moment it gets into the cochlea area, it still needs to go a long way, because the ear hears, but the brain listens. So that information needs to be transported all the way to the opposite side of the brain for interpretation, so you can listen. So the ear hears, but the brain listens. So the outer ear acts like an antenna, and that's why at the Monkman's Institute we've been encouraging you to rub or massage your own ears from top to bottom these 3 times, a couple of times a day, or you can do the family can do each other's ears from top to bottom. It's absolutely wonderful if somebody else massages your ear from top to bottom, because doing the Mind Moves antenna adjuster doesn't just enable you to hear, but it definitely stimulates listening the first time. And you know how difficult it is for children to listen the first time. So, the mouth can only say what the ear can hear, says Alfred Tomatis. So if the ear can't hear properly, it affects the way we communicate. And if you look at this slide and you look at those 2 blue arrows, what it indicates is that if there's a hiccup, if there's fluid buildup in the ear, it really messes up the flow of sound. It impacts on the vestibular system, balance, sensory integration, muscle tone as well, but it also impacts on a child's ability to hear and therefore to think. So communication is incredibly important, and communication is only possible if you can listen. And therefore, you need a very good language role model. So a language role model is also a communication role model, because language means to listen, but also to speak. And as Alfred Tomatis says, if the ear can't hear it, it may affect your child's ability to speak and express themselves clearly. It's not only children who grow, parents do too. As much as we watch to see what our children do with their lives, they are watching us to see what we do with ours. I can't really tell my children to reach for the sun. All I can do is reach for it myself. So as a parent and as a teacher, we are role models, language role models, so much more, life skill role models as well. But if you look at these 4 pictures, these are families interacting with each other, and their way is not the same. Some of them are talking, some of them are sitting very close, some of them are playing together while they're communicating. Others use sign language because that's how they communicate. So if you look at this family, they are communicating, but not through the ear, through the eye. And you can see there's an absolute lack of eye contact. So they are communicating, but just not in a way that's conducive to that positive experience that we have in a family when you feel loved and heard. There's some wise people say we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should actually use it in that proportion. You need to listen twice for every once that you open your mouth. So let's talk about developing listening skills. We've spoken about the ear. We said it's incredibly important. If you look at this picture, and I ask you to please look at the words that are circled in blue. I'm not going to read them. Please read them yourself. If you listen, you'll hear they sound similar or same. But if you look, you'll see but they're spelled completely differently in terms of the sound that seems to be the same. See, that's one of the dilemmas. The sound of a word, which is called a phoneme, and the picture of a word, which is called a grapheme, may be confusing because words don't always look the way they sound, and especially in the English language. So, say this family has decided to support the youngest member of the family in finding pictures of one specific sound. And maybe they said, let's find a picture of, or pictures where you can hear the word k somewhere in the name of that picture. And maybe they found a picture of a queen and a duck and a cat and a kitten and a school. The dilemma is the sound of the word and the picture of the word may be confusing because they are right. All of those words contain the sound k. But because they don't look the same, it becomes very difficult for some children to be able to read. And that is why there is an ongoing debate about the correct approach to reading. Some say we need to follow a bottom-up approach where there's discrete reading, and that includes phonics. Okay, so it's you need to learn the sounds of a language, and then that's the way you'd read. Or top-down, which is the whole language reading, and that's when a word is read within the sentence, within the context. So sometimes they call it the whole word approach and the phonics approach. But I want you to just consider for a moment, how do we justify teaching a child that one letter has one sound? When we look at queen, duck, cat, kitten in school, what are we talking about? A k that is a C or a k that's a K? We are confusing children. How do we say this is the letter A? Will you please read the words at the bottom and read them aloud? And listen when you say the word. Listen to the A sound and each of those words. Do they sound the same? So how can we ever tell a child that letter A, that's how you write an A? No, it's not. In arrow, that would be true. In car, it's a R. In swan, it's a on. Can you hear? We confuse children, and as long as our approach to reading serves to confuse children more than teach them, we will continue to be faced with the poor levels of reading in our very beautiful country. So let's develop the ears, and then we're going to develop the eyes. So the development of ear for language before we develop an eye for language. That's why it's so important to read to children. Because when they develop their listening skills, it's so much easier when they then later develop their reading skills. So there needs to be a love for books before we can read books. And for that reason, turn off that TV. It's not conducive to listening if there's a TV on the whole day. Turn it off for a little bit. And let's develop listening skills before reading skills. That's why ebooks or audiobooks are so amazing. Because audiobooks don't show you what you need to think. Audiobooks stimulate your hearing and your imagination. listening increases brain fitness. So the moment a child listens to a story, they are actively interpreting that story. But when they watch a story, somebody else's brain got fit by creating those pictures. Not providing pictures improves brain fitness. Another way to develop listening skills is when you're together as a family and you decide to clap the rhythm of each name. So say somebody's name is John, it's one clap. But Mary would be two. Mother would be two. Annabelle would be three. And what you can also do is you can do it in different voices. You can whisper, John, Annabelle. You can do it in a big daddy voice. You can do it in a mommy voice. So clap different rhythms. Another way to develop listening skills is to play broken telephone. It's a wonderful activity to play within a family, and it's best if you don't sit in a circle. So you can't watch the other person's facial expression. You whisper something in their ear, and they pass that message on to the last person, and then when they say it aloud, you compare it to the original story, and it's amazing to hear how sound is distorted. And I would highly recommend that you turn in the other direction, so the next time you play the game, it's you whisper in the other ear. You will be amazed how much easier it is to pay attention with one ear than the other. And then the best way to develop listening skills is to learn to listen to silence. It's that ability to go outside when the stars are shining. It's very quiet. Maybe you lie down on the grass and you look at the stars. So close your eyes. What do you hear? And maybe you're just in one part of the house and the rest of the family is elsewhere, and you ask your child, close your ears. Who do you hear? What are they doing? What else are you hearing? And then, to stimulate the vestibular system and the cochlea and the body awareness and movement in space, it is marvelous to sing body action rhymes and songs and to move according to what you hear, to develop the ear's ability to hear before we can really talk about the eye's ability to read.
Head and shoulders clap, clap. Head and shoulders clap, clap. Head and shoulders clap, clap. Head and shoulders clap, clap, clap. Knees and toes jump, jump. Knees and toes jump, jump. Knees and toes jump, jump. Knees and toes jump, jump, jump. Front and back, stomp, stomp. Front and back, stomp, stomp. Front and back, stomp, stomp. Front and back, stomp, stomp, stomp. Hands and feet, tippy-toe. Hands and feet, tippy-toe. Hands and feet, tippy-toe. Hands and